I've seen children sticking their fingers in their eye, scratching themselves. You can see bloody tracks where they've scratched their skin raw. And that is because they just have no stimulation, and any form of feeling becomes better than the nothingness that's the institution.
This video reveals the human rights abuses that go unchecked in psychiatric institutions, orphanages, and mental retardation facilities around the world. Eric Rosenthal, the director of Mental Disability Rights International, or MDRI, has conducted investigations in Mexico, Uruguay, Armenia, Russia, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, Hungary, and the former Yugoslavia. He sees recurring problems of cruel and degrading treatment, inadequate attention, and inappropriate institutionalization.
The truth is, most institutions around the world have more similarities than differences. So what we captured in Mexico was not that much different from what I saw in Romania, Hungary, Russia, Ukraine. Rows of beds, totally sterile, these places where people live for the rest of their life and absolutely no sense of individuality whatsoever. One of the hardest things to communicate in a written report is the abuse of locking up a person in a sterile room and having them sit there, do nothing.
Article 7 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights states that no one shall be subjected to torture or cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment.
What does that mean in the context of a person with a psychiatric disability? It means being locked up in a cage. It means being locked up to rot in your own filth. It means being totally lacking in any form of privacy or dignity.
In many of the institutions that MDRI visits, there is no privacy. Every room is communal. The clothes are shared, the bathrooms are filthy, puddles of urine dot the floors, and the conditions are utterly dehumanizing.
Five cups.
There are 5 cups for 99 patients.
99 patients, including some of the women who had urinated over here and had not had a chance to go to the bathroom or clean themselves since then. And some of them have been walking in it, sitting in it.
Most of these institutions are severely understaffed and overflowing with people. Medical attention is often inappropriate or hopelessly inadequate. A shockingly common problem is self-abuse. Children and adults, starved of stimulation, hurt themselves to feel something, anything. So staff respond by tying them down for hours on end. In one institution in Mexico, MDRI investigators came across a child strapped down in a wheelchair with sheets wrapped around his body.
No, they're tying it under, they're putting the restraints under the mattress there, so we can't.
Just taking the restraints off the child
Right.
and put it under the mattress.
Staff do not have time to tend to people or to give them the care they need.
This man has been running up and down this hall for the last half an hour naked. And no one seems to be taking any notice of him.
At stake is not just a patient's immediate welfare, but their long-term condition. For young children, starving them of attention will have lifelong consequences.
This little kid it's so in need of human contact. Just look at the littlest contact he responds to. And he's just got so much energy and he's walking around.
Activists like Eric Rosenthal see community integration as the answer to many of these problems. For legal precedent, he turns to the 1991 UN Principles for the Protection of Persons with Mental Illness, which state that every person with mental illness shall have the right to live and work to the extent possible in the community. Authorities admit that people are detained in institutions because they have nowhere else to go. Once they are admitted, it is often hard for patients to leave, whether they are fit to or not. The legal mechanisms to protect against arbitrary detention do not exist, or there may be nowhere and no one to release them to. According to the director at one Mexican institution, 80% of the people detained did not need to be there. Faced with tremendous stigma and discrimination and no supportive care in the community, the burden of caring for people with mental disabilities is often left to the family. When they cannot cope and feel they have no choice but to place a relative in an institution, they are often blamed by medical authorities. In Mexico, people placed in institutions by family members are called abandonados. In this unit, there were 15 abandonados.
Of the 15, 12 have been in condition to be discharged for 4 years, and the rest have been in condition for 6 months.
I see. And is it difficult to find their families?
Sí, es muy difícil encontrar sus familias.
It's difficult, as the families are clever and normally don't leave the real address when they bring them for admission. And then, the emotional bonds weaken over time. The close family members, like parents and siblings, start disappearing, and only more distant relatives remain, who definitely don't want to take responsibility for the patients.
In countries of the former Soviet Union, family members have reported to MDRI that doctors told them to give up a disabled child immediately after birth so they would not become too attached to the baby. Many families are heartbroken by the pressure to give up their child and would do anything to keep them at home.
These are children that are waiting for a placement. The family takes them to different psychiatrists, specialists to see if there's any or if they can do anything with them within their homes, and then they are recommended to be taken to different institutions. And the second level is that socially they're not able to have a specialist come to their homes to take care of them. That's why they bring the children to our institutions.
In addition to documenting abuses, MDRI works closely with activists who are working to challenge discrimination and reform laws in their own countries.
I think it is extremely important.
Gabor Gambos is a Hungarian physicist who founded the Voice of Soul, an advocacy organization made up of psychiatric survivors.
Then we feel that we are not alone. We can share knowledge and expertise about techniques, how we can influence legislation, how we can improve human rights conditions.
MDRI is fighting for the day when mental disability rights are an accepted part of the international human rights agenda. One significant step in the right direction was taken in March 2000 when MDRI presented the findings of its report on abuses in Mexico's psychiatric facilities to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. As a consequence, for the first time ever, the next annual report of the Commission on Mexico's Human Rights Record raises concerns about conditions in psychiatric facilities there. Shortly after these public hearings, Mexico declared that it would close one of the most abusive institutions. For mental disability activists, it's another step on the road to widespread recognition of some long-ignored basic human rights. For further information on what you can do to help the cause of people in institutions around the world, contact MDRI.